Oh, listen to the tone, Steve. System of a Down, BYOB, celebrating the shooting of one of their videos. Don't know which one. Don't care either.
That sounds about right. Let's go to our guest line. If you happen to be watching us on QSportsTalk.com, you see our next guest live and in person. SU assistant coach Gerry McNamara joining us here for the next 10 minutes or so. And Gerry, we've had you on in recent weeks, and you've seen a lot of these go the other way. One play goes the other way, and you end up losing it. Last night, you guys made the plays, the one extra play or the two extra plays down the stretch of that game. Congrats on the win. I guess in your mind, what did that game come down to last night?
Thank you. I think the big thing, the separating factors when I look at the stats of last night were the fact that we were as efficient, we were at the free throw line, and we kept our turnovers low. So I think we finished 16 for 17 from the free throw line, and only 8 turnovers. So you keep those numbers in that area. I think I don't know how many total free throws they took, maybe 5. So we don't shoot the 3-point shot as much as most teams do against us, so you kind of have to counteract if you're going to be outscored in that area from the 3-point line. How do you make up for that? You get to the free throw line, you value the possession. Some of these games that we weren't able to close out, it was because of turnovers. We had a few late, and that number was a lot higher. You're talking in the 12, 14, 16 range. So again, a really good defensive team in NC State to keep that turnover number to 8. It's a pretty significant number.
We had Alan Griffin on the show yesterday, and he brought up fast break points, and he said NC State leads the conference in fast break points. And, last night you guys beat them at their own game, right? I mean, you had 21 fast break points. They had 13. Could you speak to the defense, I guess the transition defense in particular, of knowing that they want to get out and run, and you guys did a really good job limiting that last night?
Yeah, we wanted to treat them like you're playing in North Carolina. Every time you go in and play a Carolina team, that they're going to push tempo, push it up, and try to score early in transition. One of the things that worked in our favor was Smith didn't get off to a great start, and he picked up a few fouls. But one of the things that we did a really good job of, because we defended without fouling for the majority of the halves, was we gave a couple fouls in the open court intelligently, to stop a fast break and try to limit them, with the 3-on-2 or 4-on-3 situation where we're at a disadvantage. And anytime you have a team like that, you got to force them to score against our half-court set defense. And you saw when we had a couple possessions, I think when we took the 7-point lead, 60-53, I haven't, like I said, off air, I told you guys I haven't watched the game in its entirety yet. I will after we get off. I think we had taken a 60-53 lead, and bang, bang, I think we gave up 2 transition threes. I think both to Smith, one of them being a bank in the corner, which is incredible, actually. But they're just so explosive in the open floor. But for the most part, we did a good job getting back, making them try to set in the half court. And when we had the opportunity, we gave a foul and tried to eliminate that option for them.
All right, you brought up fouling smartly. I do want to ask you about the last possession of the game versus the last possession of the half. Last possession of the half had a foul to give. You gave it. You left them with, 2.5 seconds left, whatever it was. They didn't get it off a good shot. They didn't score. You go into the locker room up by 4. Fast forward to the last possession of the game. 3-point game. Again, you guys had a foul to give. I just assumed that you guys were going to give a foul there. Can you kind of walk us through the difference maybe of the two possessions and why you let that, obviously it worked, why did you guys let that play out opposed to giving a foul?
I think the biggest factor in that was the amount of time that they had. I think we were still, by the time the possession started, again, I usually have these numbers for you guys, but I haven't watched it. I think if I remember correctly,
it was 24.4. Yep.
So, I think it was the time differential. The fact that they had so much time to operate with. I think usually you feel a little bit more comfortable when that clock is a little bit lower, where you're going to get in the scenario where you're under 10. But I know a lot of coaches, they don't foul at all. I know Bill Self is a big believer in that. I don't believe they foul, regardless of clock situation. But we typically like to. But I think more so, from our experience, I think we like to see that clock inside of 10 seconds to give you the best chance to foul properly.
Gerry, I was talking, it sounds easy for us to say, but we're looking at this team last night. You have 5 starters in double digits, and you see a pathway to this team being really good. And it seems fixable, too. Like if Jesse's just a little bit more efficient, if Chris Bell knocks down shots that he can make, if this team clicks on all cylinders, how good can it be?
I think we've shown if we click on all cylinders, we can beat anybody. There's been multiple games against high-level quality opponents that, we can go down the list that we've had our opportunities to win. I look at the second half of the Virginia game. We got everything we wanted. If we had to play it all over again, I would hope that we get the quality of shot that we got. So it's just one of those situations where you could literally look at the scenario and say, man, we just didn't make the shots to win the game. I said as far back as a month ago, I thought this team was getting better. And one of the reasons I look at our personnel, I mean, there hasn't been a guy that hasn't had the opportunity or the impact on a game that's completely changed it. You can go down the list with these freshmen. They've all impacted the basketball game. Judah's done it all year. Chris, I think, has started to emerge lately. Justin Taylor has changed games. Malik Brown has changed games. Quadir Copeland's come in and changed games for us. He changed the Pittsburgh game for us. And you know what you're getting for the most part with veteran leadership and guys like Symir, Joe, and Jesse. So, I think they've proven that when we play our best basketball, we can beat anybody in the league, hopefully anybody in the country. And your hope is that you start to peak at the right time. This is the right time, March and February into March. You want to be playing your best basketball. And, we still didn't get contributions last night from Benny and Justin, who, we know darn well that any night that we play a game, those two guys can be the factor in winning. So the fact that we have quality of depth, that multiple guys have been different, that have impacted the outcome of games, I think as a staff, you're really happy with those things, especially when a great majority of those players are younger guys.
What's changed offensively for you guys that you are getting the open looks? And it seemed the past 2 games, Judah's found them, Jesse's found them, but Chris Bell is getting wide open looks.
I think, we do things a little bit differently, in terms of how we, game plan and attack. And, I think the ball has found the right places in terms of where we're trying to utilize Jesse. And does that, we talk a lot about paint touches, and those paint touches can come from a guard or they can come from Jesse catching the ball deep. So regardless of defense you're playing against, if you get a paint touch, it collapses it. And if it doesn't collapse, you've got Jesse Edwards. And if the perimeter players don't collapse, but the bigs do, you got Malik Brown, trying to clean up what's left of that possession. And if they do collapse, you have really good shooters and Joe and Chris, Justin, and then if it's Judah and they send double because they're not worried about him on the 3-point line, you saw it last night, he can cut off the action and get one going downhill. So I think the ball is fine in the right places. And we've been able to counteract how they've played defensively of, catching our secondary and third reads out of really our initial touch, whether it be a paint touch or working through Jesse Edwards on the block.
All right, there's no doubt there's some momentum with this team now. And another big one, listen, they're all big the rest of the way. You know that. Duke on Saturday, a team that, they haven't quite lived up to expectations yet, and they're tied with you in the standings right now. What stands out to you about this Duke team that you've seen, obviously led by Kyle Filipowski, the superstar freshman? What stands out to you about this Duke team?
They're like us. They're young. You look around this league and you see some of the teams that are at the top. I look at a Clemson. I think they've got a lot of older guys. Pittsburgh's got a lot of older guys. Miami's got a lot of older guys. Jeremy Roach is the only player on this Duke team that we have familiarity with. They're a young group, really, really talented. They haven't been fully healthy. Whitehead's more at full strength now. Filipowski got banged up in the Virginia game, but played and had a terrific game last night against Notre Dame. So a young group figuring it out, but just like our boat, they can beat anybody they play against. Lively has really emerged. I've watched a ton of their games, and he's playing his best basketball. You talk about a great rim defender. The one thing you got to understand when you play these guys, and when you have Filipowski, Lively, and Young in the interior, that's as difficult a front line to try to keep off the offensive glass as there is in our league. And they're the best at it. We'd fully anticipate them trying to exploit that and utilize that. And, Lively is one of those guys. He's a constant threat behind your defense. But then you have the head of the snake and Roach. Proctor's really played well, and Whitehead's a knockdown guy getting healthy. So they've got all the pieces, but they've got a lot of youth, same as us. So they're trying to figure it out, and they're trying to peak at the right time. And, again, they switch defenses a lot. I think John's done a really good job in terms of, if you've watched them, they switch, they hard hedge, they soft show, they've mixed in zone defense. They've done a lot of different things with this group, and just like I said, they're in a similar category as us in terms of young guys trying to figure it out. But when they play well and play together and play as physical as they're capable of playing, they can beat anybody out there.
Duke, Syracuse, Wake Forest, all 9-6 right now in conference play, tied for sixth place in the ACC. 6:00 tip Saturday, ESPN. Dickie V's coming to town. A lot of excitement around this team, a lot of excitement around this game. Gerry, best of luck Saturday, and I'll talk to you on the TV side of things tomorrow.
Sounds good, guys. Can't wait. Bart.
All right, Cuse assistant coach Gerry McNamara joining us here on the show. Yes, Paul.
Duke 2-6 on the road.
Yeah. Man, I was at the studio last night, so I was watching Syracuse and Duke, but the ends of those games playing out at the same time. Notre Dame almost pulled that thing off. J.J. Starling came up huge, hit a big three to cut it to 2 with about 90 seconds left, made a layup to cut it to 1 with about 35 seconds left, and then Duke hit a big 3 to ice it, but and survived by 4. But that was a close game. Everybody's trying to figure it out. To me, it looks like Virginia's the best team. I know I've said this, but Virginia's the best team, and then there's a lot of good teams that anybody can beat anybody else on any given day. And Duke survived last night, as did Syracuse. Sets up a big showdown inside the Dome come Saturday. We'll hit a timeout here. Again, the voice of the Orange, Matt Park, coming your way in about 10 minutes. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.